if you're a veteran out there listening or a civilian out there listening to us, all three of us on this podcast were captains, but different ranks of captains. A captain in the Army is in 03, a captain in the Navy is 06. So, so for the record.
Oh, captain.
Yeah, I did that when I called a buddy. He was in the Navy. He was an ensign. I said, I just Captain Murphy. Yes, sir. Welcome to Warrior Money, the show devoted to supporting our brother and sister veterans. I'm Patrick Murphy.
And I'm Dan Coons.
Today, we're joined by Alan Reyes, a retired Navy captain and the CEO of Operation Homefront. Alan leads one of the most impactful nonprofits supporting military families with programs focused on emergency assistance, transitional housing, and long-term stability. But here's the question we're asking today. Alan, bottom line up front, how is it that there's 32,000 homeless veterans? How are our brothers and sisters drowning in a sea of goodwill?
Well, I'll tell you, Patrick, it is unfathomable that we have that problem here in the United States. We're too prosperous a country. We have too many bright minds and too much innovation in this society to have that as a persistent problem. And I would just answer it by saying, having the opportunity to bring together folks from the public sector, the private sector, and the nonprofit sector to solve this problem, a whole of society solution is the way that we're going to go after this. And, whether it's Operation Homefront or many other ways that we can get this done, together as a society, we're going to solve this problem.
Yeah,
that's great.
And Alan, you have a hell of a career in the public sector, in the Navy, and obviously in the private sector. We're going to dive into the private sector in a second. But listen, Naval Academy graduate, Navy captain, but then you went and you pivoted. You got your MBA from the University of Virginia Darden School of Business. How did you find your purpose after your military career?
Well, I'll tell you, serving in the military was really just a foundation for me in the first place, right? Being able to give back to the country that has given me so much. My father was enlisted in the Navy. He immigrated from the Philippines to serve in our Navy, and I wanted to give that back. And it was the foundation for me. Rising to flag rank and all that stuff was fantastic. But more importantly, was the ability to create in me the opportunity to be part of something bigger than I am. And that persisted well after I left the uniform, going to a place like the University of Virginia's Darden School, fantastic MBA program. And I'll be really honest, Patrick and Dan, I was leaving active duty after 8 years, thinking about, the peace dividend and doing my, becoming part of the private sector, which I think is fantastic. Again, a hallmark of our society. But, I've always wanted to be and continue to be someone that be a part of a solution that was greater than I am. And so coming into the nonprofit space, as part of my private sector career after leaving active duty in the Navy while serving in the reserves at the same time was really just a way to build a body of work for myself personally that was about making an impact on those around us. And so serving in the private sector was fantastic. Serving in the nonprofit sector, equally fantastic. But again, trying to find that whole society solution in the macro, I kind of live that as in my own sort of personal life as well.
Yeah, it's a really integrated life you're just talking about right there. Like you continue service and you talk about reserves. And what we often talk about here is trying to find purpose post-military service. And a lot of our audience, a lot of our military members think it's binary, right? I'm either in the military or I'm not in the military. But I think you proved a different way, right? You did 8 years of active duty, and then you did the reserves, and then you and I know each other from the USO, so you were supporting a military service organization that way. So can you talk a little bit about how you navigated your purpose from active duty and then kept it foot in reserves? I know that's really hard. And then how do you then came to where you are now?
Well, Dan, you and I share that heritage. We all share this heritage of like serving in multiple ways. I think part of it, to be honest, let me attribute part of this to reading an article. I think a Harvard Business Review article from several years ago called Triple Strength Leadership. And, quick read, but it really was illustrating the fact that, we can move from sector to sector and provide value, leadership, and learn lessons that we can carry from that sector onto the next. So moving from the public sector to the private sector to the nonprofit sector, I found that was, to me, a really compelling way to define the opportunity to make for purpose, first of all, right? So being able to serve in those multiple sectors was a really, I think, important way for me personally to really find the best way to create value in different ways in each of those different sectors.
Yeah.
And I think, just your point, Dan, about, finding purpose to begin with. I do believe that, those of us, so many of us in the society, whether we wear the uniform or not, are very service-oriented people. And that purpose is about, furthering the cause for those around us, right? And, you might, the cliche about leaving the world a better place than you found it, those kind of things aren't just taglines. They're actually, I think, ways that they're important for those of us that have the opportunity to give back in different ways, should be able to capitalize on. So, finding that purpose was about then trying to define, well, how do I want to make that make that difference? And, I think about me personally growing up, not very hard for someone like me who grew up in the military, both as a kid and then in the military myself. And at this stage, I can say I was a kid when I was in the military too, because that was a long time ago. That was the community that I wanted to serve. So I thought very deeply about how it is that I want to make a difference in this society, and then look for those opportunities. So the purpose was really first start in what I value the most, and being able to grow up in this society, in this country, thanks to the military, thanks to the opportunity that my dad had to enlist and raise his family here in the U.S., gave me purpose to give back to that community.
Great.
Yeah. My father was also Navy enlisted, so we're bipartisan here. Army and Navy. So people,
I
do
root
want
for
to do
West Point 364 days a year.
Yeah,
For December 13th.
That's right. Army Navy game this year in Baltimore, by the way. Disclaimer for the folks: if you're a veteran out there listening or a civilian out there listening to us, all three of us on this podcast were captains, but different ranks of captains. A captain in the Army's in 03, a captain in the Navy's 06. So, so for the record.
Oh, captain.
Yeah, I did that when I called a buddy who was in the Navy. He was an ensign. I said, "This is Captain Murphy." Yes, sir.
So it's really funny, right? So when we would hear stories when I was in the Navy, right? When someone would call the BOQ to make a reservation, some Army 03 says, "Hey, I'm Captain so-and-so." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's the 06 call," and they make the reservation, right? So, I will say Navy captain was a great rank. I was lucky enough to make flag rank and rear admiral after that. But I will tell you, being a captain, whether it's a captain in the Army or a captain in the Navy, wearing the uniform and making a difference, that was all that really mattered. So if you guys called the BOQ and got a better room because you were a captain,
whatever it takes.
We'll hustle our way to anything.
We were shamming just to get that reservation in the old club. Right.
Yeah. No worries.
Hey, but let's go, because, we start from the jump. There's 32,000 homeless veterans right now in 2025. I mean, it's heartbreaking for all of us, right? But there are a lot of our brothers and sisters that are dying in the Steve Goodwill. Tell us, bottom line, what does Operation Homefront do, and how do you bridge that gap so they don't fall through the cracks?
Yeah, so I mean, our mission is about building strong, stable, and secure military and veteran families, increasing their strength and increasing their resilience. And so our theory of the case is if we first of all look at the family as a unit, whether on active duty or in uniform or post transition, that is a core building block for our society and really for our armed forces, as you gentlemen know, right? You have a strong military family that is supporting that military service member, whether he or she is home in garrison or deployed overseas or in combat. That individual service member is going to be a more effective, more ready, and I dare say more lethal, part of that unit if he or she knows that the family back home is taken care of. I think we've all lived that and understand that intuitively. The other part of our case with Operation Homefront is when families have made that transition post DD 214, they are entering communities, they're joining companies, they're becoming part of the fabric of our society. And if they make that transition successfully, then we're going to make those communities stronger. We're going to make our society stronger, and we're going to make our economy stronger. So there is a macro reason for the role that Operation Homefront makes. But I will tell you, it makes a different. The difference is made very individually at a family level. And so we provide critical financial assistance, helping those families when they're facing a potential financial crisis by making sure that we shore them up, provide them a quick financial support if they're about to miss a mortgage or a home payment. So many of our junior enlisted, particularly junior enlisted families, will avoid the spiral downward if they can save, if they can avoid that one hiccup in their financial situation. We also have a fantastic series of housing programs, transitional housing programs that allow those families, again, primarily those that making their transition out of military service into the veteran space. We'll put them into homes 2 to 3 years, rent-free, utility-free, mortgage-free. We'll put them through some financial counseling. We'll help them, build skills to be smart home buyers. Help them with integrating in their community, finding employment and the such. And then on the back end of those 2 to 3 years, they have a nest egg. They paid down their debt. They oftentimes will then transition and purchase their own home and lead a successful transition life after that. And then we finally have a number of programs that support current active duty families around food security, supporting the families, particularly the school age children. Lots of different programs that help that currently serving family. Because again, we want to make sure that they're strong and resilient, both on the left side of the DD214 and on the right side of the DD214.
That right side of the DD214, when you're transitioning from service and the family unit has some level of transition vulnerability. We're going to make up a new word, transition vulnerability, right?
That's, I like it.
The family isn't super stable or super secure, then that then reflects the house isn't super stable and secure, which then means that your local community isn't necessarily going to feel the same way. So I think you guys are going to that level of transition security, that transition stability area, and you're bringing forward. I'm going to do a shameless plug right here just because I have to. I just moved home after about 2.5 years of not being at home. I was kind of in Nashville for a really long time, and I transitioned to the Philadelphia area. When we got to the Philadelphia area, my house felt comfortable, so then therefore I got to be better active in my community, to include my baseball team, the Malvern Kings, that just won the 2025 Bucksmont Championship. So I had to put that in there, but I'm telling you, like, when you
Malvern Kings,
yeah, Malvern Kings 2025 Bucksmont champions. But what I'm saying is, like, when that community, when your home feels stable, and what you're trying to do in your mission set, right? When it feels stable, everything can follow from that. If it's not stable, it's impossible to manage that.
Yeah, 1,000%, Dan. Congrats to your team, by the way. I will say also that security, that stability of that family is it. The work that we do that supports their financial stability is absolutely critical. But it's one of multiple elements of that stability that you're talking about. And you think about the social fabric of that family, the emotional state of that family. You think about the well-being of that family across multiple dimensions of, physical, mental, emotional levels. A family unit has to operate as well as they can to create that stability for everyone in the family, the parents, the kids. And so, again, there's so many facets to it. And, organizations like Homefront are there to make sure that we're creating that platform across those multiple dimensions of stability and resilience.
Yeah.
Now the hockey player's going to plug something.
Yeah. Listen, go Flyers. Well, listen, Al, what we're going to do now, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about Operation Homefront and where they sit, with the 43,000 veteran service organizations. So we'll be right back with more Warrior Money when we return. All right, welcome back. As we mentioned earlier, Alan Reyes is the CEO of Operation Homefront. He's here to share how his organization is tackling housing insecurity head-on, or what we call transition insecurity, from transitional housing to emergency assistance, and what veterans and their families need to know to protect themselves and their loved ones. So, Al, welcome back to Warrior Money. Listen, I'm Patrick Murphy. I'm Captain Murphy. I'm leaving Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I'm going back home to Pennsylvania. I'm having some transition issues. I'm having housing issues. If I want to reach out to Operation Homefront, what do I do? Where do I start if I don't have your cell phone and email like I already do?
Yeah. Well, thank God you've got that, Patrick, because I'm glad that we're connected, man. But if Captain Murphy or anyone's looking for help, obviously we've got a great website, operationhomefront.org, that really is the gateway into all of our services. We have a back-end engine that helps ingest the information needed for those military and veteran families that are looking for support. So if you're, as you mentioned, we have great housing programs that help with that transition and security and create security around that transition. And, you can explore. I'd love to talk more about the different programs. There's nuances to each of them. But at the end of the day, getting to our website and applying there and then getting engaged with our caseworkers is really the way into the program.
So where do you get your funding from? How does the magic happen? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, great question, Dan. I'll tell you, as a nonprofit, we are really benefiting from the generosity of multiple parts of the American society. We have a lot of corporate and individual donors that support us. We actually, unlike many other nonprofits that have good reason for it, we don't actually rely on federal or state money directly. We are really fully funded by the private sector. And again, I think it's just one of those examples of the opportunity that we have as a whole of society to solve these problems together. And we've been lucky and very grateful for generous donors, again, corporate, foundation, and individual citizens who believe in our cause, believe in the way that we're helping solve this crisis of veteran homelessness and many other issues around family security for our military and our veteran
Yeah,
community.
we're here at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter of 2025. And, when you look at, you pop your head up, there may or may not be a government shutdown September 30th. It might be delayed. If that happens, that means the military probably will not get a paycheck, right? So most American families do live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have that nest egg. They don't follow Dave Ramsey's rules where you have 3 months emergency, salary, in the bank in case you do need it. What would you advise, young military men and women and their families to do now? And then how could they potentially plug in?
Yeah, well, I say, first of all, financial stability for that family or even that individual service member, really has to start at the beginning. And you mentioned, some of the principles around personal financial management. It's hard, I know, for many young service members and young families because there's so many other things that are requiring their attention. But really understanding what you can do to pay yourself first, make sure that you are building that financial stability. Operation Homefront's there to help with that, right? We provide financial counseling through many of our programs. When people are coming to us for emergency financial assistance or coming to us as part of our housing programs, one of our staples, one of the things I think it creates that long-term success for our beneficiaries is helping them with financial planning, giving them some counseling to understand, both in terms of generating income, how they manage expenses, and most importantly, how they're saving in the near term for near-term needs, and then also certainly for the long term in terms of retirement and for homes that are going to build their generational wealth. So over the long term, I think that's the solution. If we're talking about now in the throes of a potential shutdown, there are a lot of organizations that are out there to help, and I think all of them should be on folks' Rolodexes, making sure that they connect with them. Here at Operation Homefront with families, particularly here in the fourth quarter coming up, holidays that are coming, on top of regular bills. There are ways that we at Operation Homefront can support. So a couple of examples beyond the financial assistance, across the country at major military installations, we are putting on holiday toy drives, holiday meal programs, helping stretch the dollar just a bit more for those families, particularly if they're going to have a pause in their actual income. Those kind of programs will really help them in a pinch. So, that's one of the reasons that we believe it's important to have these kind of programs in the fourth quarter. Holidays are expensive, but then you add on top of that some of the volatility that we're seeing right now and the potential challenges for another shutdown, right? So I think those are some of the things that young military families can take advantage of now.
I feel like everything's really expensive right now. I'm like, the summer's expensive with camps. The holidays are expensive. Like,
that's true.
There's no months that are not expensive. It's all expensive. Yeah. Hey, dude, just like help me think through this, right? I don't know you. I don't know Operation Homefront. I have no idea. Like, what is somebody that's a E3 or E4 that's struggling? How do you think they should find you? Like, help me navigate, because that Sea of Goodwill is a real thing, right? Like, do they Google, hey, like, I can't make my mortgage. Like, how do they originally find?
Full disclosure, guys, we need as Operation Homefront to continue improving the way that we are accessible by those that need our help. So it's a great question, Dan. Yes, I absolutely. If you if you search for Operation Homefront or go to our website, operationhomefront.org, you can get immediate access to those resources. We have a lot of the search engine, search keywords and search engines that we will key on. If someone's looking for a financial assistance, they should, military financial assistance, they should come up with us, as well as some other nonprofits as well. Those are the best ways to get sort of the broad awareness of who we are. I mentioned a lot of our programs that are serving the active duty communities, right? We put on literally hundreds and hundreds of back to school events,
Interesting. Cool.
holiday toy drives, holiday meal programs, as well as many other types of activities that are bringing families together in these active duty and these active military communities. So that's another place. If you can go and again, on our website, you see the different activities that we're putting on. You can attend those as a military family, benefit from that specific program. But more importantly, you're now connected into the Operation Homefront family. We have you as part of our family. You have access to those other programs, and can access them as you need them.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about it, I did a back to school night for you all. I was putting packages together. You did it in Philly. Kevin Smeagol was involved. The Philadelphia Eagles were involved, and I was there for a few hours just packing things for school. I do think that you were out there in the community, Operation Homefront, that you're out there and you're saying, hey, listen, let's give some practical, tangible things for these military families that could really use the help. I would say, though, as a CEO of one of the largest nonprofits out there, what would you say you see in the space? Because we do see some contraction, meaning, we saw Bunker Labs got merged into the Syracuse University Institute for Military veterans and families. So, do you see more of that, in the years to come after, 20 years of war and, in the next 10 years or so, more of that consolidation, or what would you say?
Yeah, I think the short answer to that is yes, Patrick. I do think that there is more consolidation opportunities. I'll put it that way, as opportunities, because you think about, you mentioned it earlier, 43,000 MSOs, VSOs, nonprofit organizations that are focused in this space, all well-intended, all so, willing to do what we can to support this important constituent, right? But at the end of the day, we need to think about what's the most efficient way to get those resources applied, right?
Yeah.
And some of that is going to happen through consolidation. Dan and I are very familiar from our days back with the USO about how that was part of the business case for the USO to make sure to do things in a more efficient way. And then if you think in a more macro level about this space, there are a lot of organizations that are doing similar things. So can you find ways to do that more efficiently as a fewer number of organizations with less overhead? Absolutely can do that.
Yeah.
Can you do other things in addition to that? Absolutely too, right? So certainly at Operation Homefront, but really across this ecosystem, more and more opportunities for collaboration, and really leaning into that, I think, is an important part for all of us as nonprofit leaders, despite whatever size you might be, because I think that's going to really create that opportunity to get as many of the right resources to those constituents, those beneficiaries in the military and veteran space. And I'm sure you guys can both attest to this, right? I mean, oftentimes you'll be frustrated because you'll talk to a young, I'll use Army term, a young soldier here, and realize that, man, he or she could have got help from these three organizations for this exact problem that he had, but he no idea that they were there, right? And so being able to make sure that we as nonprofits can work in collaboration with others and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be able to serve you with this, but these guys next door absolutely go through that door. And more of us in the nonprofit space, a lot of us in the nonprofit space are pointed that way. I think we need to continue doing more of that.
It's the crossover skill, mergers and acquisitions that you can apply in the private side, right? Like at some point in time, you're either a partner, you're an acquisition candidate, you're an acquisition target. Like that's just what it comes down to.
It's a spectrum. You're absolutely right.
It just
right?
is what it
and
is,
so,
right? Like you got to consolidate at some point.
Yeah. And I think we should be unapologetic about that too, right? At the end of the day, I'm one of those folks, but many of us bring some of the private sector experience and call it common sense, right, to this space, right? And so it's important to run the enterprise as a going concern, making sure that you're optimizing it and being as efficient as possible, because it's so you apply those private sector sensibilities to these nonprofit organizations, and that's the way for future success.
No doubt about it. So, Alan Reyes, thank you so much for joining us on Warrior Money. The fact that you're forward leading, you're out there, you're on the largest business platform in the world, Yahoo Finance, and the #1 veterans program, which is called Warrior Money. Alan, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. Go Army. Beat Navy. So that's our show. Alan can't say anything else. So listen, subscribe, review Warrior Money on your Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you hear podcasts, or find us at Yahoo Finance. I'm Patrick Murphy.
And I'm Dan Coons. We'll see you again next week.
Go Army.
Be Navy.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.